Hello everyone and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Terran versus Zerg where we find ourselves on Berlingrad. Spawning right here in the top left-hand corner of the map and playing with the blue Zerg drones. Representing the Shopify Rebellion from Germany, we have a Lambo. And his opponent in the opposite corner with the red Terran SCVs from China. Playing for Kaizi Gaming, we're looking at Time's main command center. Alrighty, so Time versus Lambo on Berlingrad. Now, spoiler alert for the DreamHack Valencia regionals, because both of these players played very well in that tournament. They had some stellar results. So first off, Time. Basically, the way that tournament works, by the way, is that there's, before like the main events takes place over in Valencia, we have like regional tournaments too to determine who's going to be able to play in Valencia. Anyways, Mr. Time, he ended up taking first place over in the Chinese region. Not all too surprising because he's far and away the best player from China right now, and he really has been for quite a while. I would say the second best player from China is probably Cyan. So he took first place over there, which is very, very impressive. And then secondly, Mr. Lambo, over in the European region, which, as you may imagine, is incredibly stacked, he ended up taking fourth place overall, which is honestly very impressive. Like one of the... Whoa, Mr. Lambo, what? Wonder what was that, man? Why did you... What? Alright, well now I'm gonna have to cheer for Time. Anyhow, Lambo showing some stellar results, definitely showcasing that he's amongst the very best Zerg players in the world. Taking better results than some of the players you may expect to do, you know, quite good in events like that. I don't really want to spoil anything. As soon as DreamHack releases the replays, I'll go ahead and cast some of the very best tournaments, or some of the very best games, rather, from that tournament as well. So, if you aren't subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notified as soon as those best games from the event go live. Generally speaking, DreamHack doesn't release the replays until, like, after the main event is done. So I don't really expect I'm going to be able to do so until like another month or so from now, but I'll definitely feature some Lambo games then as well, because he was playing some fantastic StarCraft. He's going to go for a third hatchery here after opening up with a pool first. This is something that at this point, yeah, Time isn't entirely sure about yet. He doesn't know how many Zerglings there are out on the map, so he's decided to leave the Reaper at home at the very least for a little while. Probably waiting until he gets a few of those Hellions available, or he gets a couple of Hellions out, to make sure he doesn't lose against anything silly. Now, it's not going to be Zerglings silly. Instead, it's going to be a Roachwarn coming up here at, like, what, 2.5 minutes into the game? That is quite quick. So, Lambo has decided to skip Zergling speed for now, which definitely is a huge indication that he wants to be extremely aggressive. Now, the question is, does Time know? At this point, he doesn't know that his opponent has killed the dog inside of his main base, which, you know, first off, Lambo, why? Secondly, you have a dog here, but, like, you know, there's no reason, like, there's nothing blocking your ramp. Anyways, does he also know, maybe slightly more importantly right here for Mr. Time, does he know that there's a Roachwarn inside of his opponent's main base? I don't think he's going to be able to find out. Not until the Reaper probably spots the roaches. That's probably the earliest possible moment. Nice little bit of, yeah, nice grenade right over there. He's going to be able to get a drone. That's something. Roaches are going to pop. Just a second. Alright, so he does see them right now, and now he knows exactly what he's going up against. That's an important scout. One of the reasons why you want to keep that, that Reaper alive. Anyhow, bunker immediately comes up. SCVs get evacuated on from the low ground right away. Very much so respecting this. We saw Dream going in for the Hellion counterattack in these sort of circumstances against Sue. That was actually kind of cool. He managed to deal a lot of counterattack damage on the other side of the map as well, but... The reason why we see this build, by the way, quite a bit on Berlingrad is just because you can rush from one side of the map to the other pretty easily. A couple of Widow Mines available. Might not want to group them that closely together, just to, you know, a couple corrosive biles might be an issue. The point, though, or at this point, Lambo doesn't realize what's going on. Panic! Alright. Doesn't end up taking critical damage on all of his units. Corrosive Bile right there connects with the tail end of one of his own roaches. Honestly, stellar defense right here from Time. How many SCVs will Lambo be able to kill? He needs to kill at least, probably want to say 6 or 7, maybe 8, to justify this push. Then again, Lambo did follow this up with drones. He doesn't have Zergling speed, so it's not like he could really go for an all-in either. But did he really deal enough damage there to justify making 9 of those roaches already at this point in the game? Probably not. Honestly, probably not. Does this justify, you know, killing the... Okay, fine, I'll shut up about it. But seriously though, why? Like every once in a while for like a... Like say for example you're a Protoss player and you try to complete the wall off and right at that point the little Roomba is, you know, blocking the position of the pylon so you have a couple of depths sneaking in. That's not ideal. I get it in that circumstance, but for Zerg, the dogs, really? Anyhow. Yeah, I know Lambo has a dog. He posts about it on his Instagram story quite frequently. I think it's called Loki? I think it's called Loki. Anyhow. Very cute dog. Let's see. Time is gonna follow this up with a triple Rex. Command center as a follow-up to a little bit later than you probably ideally want him to, but he does have a couple of cloaked banshees, so let's see how much damage he can deal. Shots right there out of sync, so he doesn't get the drone kills. Was supposed to snipe 2 there. He's gonna try and do it again in the main base. Come on. I guess he wants to try and get the queen, but... Yeah, that's better. Don't lose the banshee. Not the best micro right there on those banshees, if I'm being honest with you, if I'm being very critical. Can be actually quite dicey here for the Zerg to defend against those Hellions too. Just because he lacks Zergling speed at this point, right? So creep spread and having those roaches in the right place at the right time. Yeah, to make sure that the Hellions are spotted. Super important. Ooh, very quick infestation pit right there from Lambo. Interesting. We used to see this from Dark, where he would get 2 infestors pretty much every single time when playing Roach Ravager. And the infestors oftentimes would suddenly catch the Terran player off guard with like a fungal growth. Anyhow, Banshees are going to be able to go home. +1/+1 coming up. Could be just straight for a hive, obviously. Maybe he wants to go into Lurkers. Maybe he wants to go into Vipers. We'll see. Viper's obviously really good too. Most of the time the Terran is going to follow this up with Marine Siege Tank. Yeah, Hydra then coming up. I wonder if it's a good idea to add on like 2 infestors here. If you're ever looking to get better with Zerg, highly recommend studying Lambo's games. He plays pretty rigidly, so usually there's quite a lot of similarity in his games. I know he's also actually got he's got his own YouTube channel too, where he occasionally posts tutorials and all that. Definitely recommend checking it out if you're looking to get better at Zerg. He used to do this thing called Free MMR Friday, which I always really liked. He would teach some dirty Zerg strategies, and I may or may not have gotten some dirty MMR of that from that myself. Anyways, Hive coming up, 7.5 minutes into the game, together with the Lurker den. So this is a Roach Hydra into Lurkers, and then probably Vipers for support a little bit later on as well. Time in the meantime, or time in the meanwhile, that probably sounds better, so I don't say the word time, you know, twice in like 5 words. He's just happily macroing up off of the stuff that he's got. So, no 4th command center. Okay, I was gonna say, no 4th CC just yet. I really do want to see it, because I don't think you're gonna be able to do a 3-base all-in with Terran against Zerg that goes Lurkers. It just doesn't happen. The creep spread here from Lambo is phenomenal. And while time definitely is not in a bad spot here, Lambo gets to do the game that he likes to play, right? And that's I feel like where those very rigid players are usually at their scariest. This is something that Lambo has practiced over and over and over again. He knows how to respond in pretty much every scenario here. And yeah, he gets to be in his comfort zone, which I think is probably where players like, for example, Lambo are at their most dangerous. You really don't want to have them in their comfort zone. I actually feel like Lambo is a pretty underrated player. He's actually very good. I guess it's hard to be a top-level Zerg player in Europe, though. Just because Raynor and Cyril keep stealing away all the attention. Because they, you know, win a lot of stuff. Anyhow, here we go. Time's going for a push. By the time that this push, though, is properly at the 3rd base, I'm pretty sure that Lurkers will be out with ranged. Okay, Roach is actually going in for the counterattack. Pretty aggressive little move. It's now forcing that entire Terran army to go back home, though, so it turns out that once again, the best defense is the offense. That fight could have been a little bit dicey right there for the Zerg, but apparently Time didn't really want to take any chances. He's just going to land his 4th command center and probably morph it into a planetary fortress. The thing is, though, a couple of lurkers right next to a planetary. Bada bing, bada boom, everything dies. This is played into the hands of Lambo here for now. Yeah, lurkers are coming up. Lurker burrow speed also researching. +2/+2 just started up. That is quite a bit later here than the Terran's 2-2. But this is one of the few games where I really don't mind that all too much. Transition right now from Time is going to be into the Ghost Academy. That's the one downside of going Roach Ravager into Hydra Lurker. You don't really go for that Ling Bane phase, right? So since you don't have that Ling Bane phase right now as Zerg, you don't really have a proper counter to Ghosts at all. So Time going right here for the Ghosts, very good. Would love to see him going straight into 3-3 as well. Come on. That would be awesome. He's probably too busy looking around the map. Okay, there it is. Yeah, very good. Push that upgrade lead. Even though lurkers do kind of shut down that tempo advantage quite a bit, they can still be quite helpful. Anyways, lurkers at this point are available though, and Time is not really going to be able to do a lot of multi-pronged harassment anymore at this stage in the game, I don't think. Roaches are being traded out as well for Hydralisks. Whereas sometimes in these sort of games, Lings and Banes are the stepping stone. In this particular circumstance, it's the Roaches. So we're going Roach Ravager into Hydra Lurker, and then with Vipers for support. As soon as the Roaches die, you trade them out, and you transition towards more Hydras instead. Bailing Nest was also made though, so Lambo is going to go into 3rd Evo now too. Probably upgrade melee too. Make sure that he can counter any ghosts. So he hasn't seen any ghosts yet, or any ghosts yet at this point in the game, but it's the most logical approach, right? What else is Terran going to do? You could kind of go Liberators, I guess. But Liberators have really turned out to be the inferior choice against those Lurkers, just because Zerg will pretty much always accompany the Lurkers with Vipers, and the Vipers obviously can abduct all of those Liberators quite easily. And obviously, Ghosts. They're every Terran player's favorite MOBA unit, right? They're fantastic at, like, everything that Zerg has in the late game. Be it Infestors, or Vipers, or Lurkers, or Brute Lords, or Ultras, Ghosts are pretty much always the right choice. This is that moment, by the way, where apparently Terran is starting to add on command centers. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see a couple more. I've actually seen a bunch of games where Terrans go for a command center right over here, which I always think is pretty sick. If you morph that into a planetary, it can be quite hard for the Zerg to actually properly get in there. Either way, despite the fact that lurkers are out, bases are still getting denied. Are we not going to go for more command centers yet? I guess Time maybe wants to max out first? He's got minerals for it right now. Already going into... Okay, there we go. Yeah. This is that Maru-esque style, right? This is something that Maru's been playing for quite a while now, where you open up in a Terran versus Zerg like you normally do, and then eventually you're gonna add a command center, and a command center, and a command center, and you just keep adding on command centers, and then at some point, you can kind of be like a Zerg and see the entire map. You know how like Zergs usually have access to creep practically everywhere, and they can kind of see every fight coming in from a mile away? Terran will get a similar advantage by being able to scan everywhere. And obviously, if you end up losing SCVs, or you purposely trade out SCVs, you can use that supply for army units instead, and you can still continue mining because of those mules. So it's very, very strong. It's just also a little bit tricky to play. So that's why Time is adding on, all of that static defense over here. Sensor tower in a good position. That's why the planetary on the high ground can be quite powerful, though. You know, maybe it's one of those things that Lambo can easily deal with. I wouldn't be surprised. A couple libs are being added on too. Is Lambo gonna be able to pwn him? We'll see. No, Lowko. No. Don't do it. Anyways, +3/+3, adrenal glands. Yeah, we're setting ourselves up for a nice little macro game. Look, by the way, how fast the minimap vision is scooting around. When Lambo is on point, when he's doing his queen injects, you can see him, like, switching screens. This happens every 40 seconds or so. You'll see him switching screens on the minimap with that blue outline. That's his vision. And you'll maybe be able to notice when he is doing his queen injects. It goes very quickly. trying to deny this base right now. Army in the top right-hand corner, also not really getting a whole lot of damage done. Yeah, the more games I've seen with the minimap vision of what the players are looking at, the more... Oh, you saw that? Did you see that? That little move right there? You might need to rewind for a couple seconds. Either way, he does this throughout the game, but there's like about a quarter of a second where Lambo injects like 6 bases. This fight right here for Lambo, though, is not very good at all. Brilliant engagement there for Mr. Time. Yeah, siege tanks and ghosts making this all the while better. At this point, the ghost count has also been revealed. So I think that our Zerg is going to be more than happy indeed going for a whole lot of Zerglings. Morphing them into Banelings is probably the best way you can go. My god. That was beautiful. That may be a shot right there for the YouTube video thumbnail. Anyhow, 15.5 minutes into the game, Lowko. Remind yourself. Ooh, that's also the point apparently where double Nidus Worm goes up. Double Nidus Network. What's better than one Nidus Worm? Exactly, 2 Nidus Worms. Alright, so I was a little bit concerned for Time earlier, but he actually seems to be in complete control of what he needs to get done here. I haven't seen him playing this, like, turtle-y style all too much, but kind of dig it. So he was, yeah, he was in a bit of a dicey spot, right? When Zerg was at like 5-6 bases and he was on 3 command centers. But that is like 10 minutes ago. Time has been establishing himself very nicely out on this map. No way for Zerg to go in here. No way for Zerg to go in here. No way for Zerg to really go in here either. And it doesn't look like Time really cares too much about how much mining the Zerg has anymore. He was doing some harassment here and there earlier. He's killed 12 drones in total, which is honestly a very respectable amount. Like, very nicely done by Lambo, that is, right? A very respectable amount, you know, for Lambo to only lose 12. Not so good for the Terran player. Oh my god, dude, those ghosts are so nice. Alright. Yeah, so slowly but surely, Time is making a move for the base in the bottom left. This is an expansion he can take. It's one of the bases that Zergs really want to mine out. Because it's the most logical next step in the Terran's expansion plan. The base over here on the right side, quite a bit harder to take. I mean, yeah, this one over here definitely is more straightforward. Okay, there's the double worm. There are lurkers inside of this worm. Or in these worms, they're all connected. Zerglings in the meantime, also trying to create some chaos over here, forcing the Terran's attention away, and now you can have lurkers inside of the Natural Expo. Hydras and Zerglings and Banelings, yeah, everything's in here. It's not a huge amount of army here, but it's just annoying. This is especially great if you can follow it up with some more distraction, but at this point, not really an option. Okay. Aww. That's beautiful. SCVs and drones sharing a base. Another excellent thumbnail opportunity. 18 minutes into the game, Lowko. 18 minutes into the game. Lowko from the future. Don't forget. Yeah, they actually killed a command center. Would you look at that? Anyways, planetary fortress right here at the intersection. Hate it when that happens, dude. When you're driving around and suddenly there's a planetary fortress in the middle of the intersection. Ugh, it's the worst. Another Nidus Worm in the main base. There's gonna be Zerglings in there. Okay, I was gonna say. Like, Zerg doesn't even really need to send a lot of units in, right? They can just kinda let it happen. So he's burrowing some links too here and there just to try and be extra obnoxious. Yeah, all of this is like very low attention for the Zerg to pull off and very high attention for the Terran player to defend. So maybe the 14 Brute Lord transition right here from the Zerg is gonna go unscouted. He's got quite a few of them. Okay, they're sprinkled all over the map. We're already at 15 ghosts, though. So, ghosts are very strong. The main counter that Zerg usually has against ghosts is the Baneling. And up to a couple of months ago, that seemed to be the logical approach. The problem is the Terrans have gotten very good at, like, positioning their structures in such a way that the ghosts can easily retreat. So, Zergs don't have that reliable of a counter against ghosts, other than the Terran player misplaying. So, obviously, if you can trade really well throughout the game, you might be able to just get the economical advantage, and therefore Terran will just run out of steam. Because you do need other units to support ghosts, too. You can't just go mass ghosts, but... Okay, at this point, he's seen the brutes, too. Fungal growth, obviously, another opportunity, right? Fungal growth would be amazing, but obviously ghosts do, you know, counter infestors by EMPing them and stuff. Okay, leftover bio units are being sent on a trip towards the top right-hand corner. They're probably gonna try and just deal whatever damage they can. They're being replaced by higher tier units. Fungal. Yeah, nice fungal. Take that, Spore Crawler. Alright. Yeah, so that was a nice little trait there for Lambo. That's exactly what he wants to do. Brute Lord, Infester, Viper, Hydra, Lurker, Ling of Bane, Corruptor, Overseer, Queen. It's a complex unit comp. But as we found over the last few years, Zerg players have about 3 hands. At least at the professional level. Okay. Yeah, so this little transition here from the Zerg that I was questioning earlier is working out decently well. May very well be able to get rid of that planetary fortress, although he needs to be careful. Zerg base on the right side of the map also was destroyed. Time doing an excellent job clearing out the economy difference here. So at this point, yeah, Zerg's income is definitely not looking as healthy as it once did. Bases in the top right-hand corner are critical here. That's why Lambo really wants to mine out this base too, right? So if you can have this base as well as the one that's mirrored on the opposite end of the map, it's gonna give him an entire extra 2 bases, right? For obvious reasons, that's amazing. Even if he can't properly fight this army in a one-on-one battle, he can use the mobility of the Zerg to try and gain an advantage that way. So essentially what Lambo's strategy at this point is to try and keep the Terran player occupied on the bases that they have right now, but to allow him no more, and then to mine one of the bases that's normally considered the Terrans. The entire map now has been taken. Abduct. Okay. Yeah, not a whole lot of follow-up here. Brute Lords are going to be able to take care of that siege tank that was a little far forward. Ghost count is now at 18. Couple of spores who are at the front also, providing detection right here for the Zerg. Both players building up a bit of a bank. Smart servos coming up. Terran making the transition right now towards Ghost Mech as well. So while this game started off with loads of Marines over here, we're now slowly but surely transitioning towards Ghost Mech, which I personally really like. I'm a big fan of the way that these games start off playing Bio Terran, and they end up with, well, mechanical units together with ghosts. Advanced Ballistics researching right now for time as well. That's the Liberator ranged upgrade. Keep in mind that the siege tanks there may very well end up dealing friendly fire too. Okay, Thor's loaded up into the Medivacs. They're in high impact mode, so they do outrange Brute Lords. Very nice little bit of supplemental damage from Thor's against those Brutes. So the longer that this fight goes on, the better it becomes here for Lambo. I really would love to see like a bunch of drones sent on over towards this base to mine it out. Because I don't think that Terran's going to be able to ever contest this base over here on the right side and mine that one. So if Terran wants to take a base after the ones that he's got right now, this expo over here makes the most sense. So if you can mine out the minerals there before Terran can get to that spot, you need about 10 minutes of total mining time. I think it is worth sending these 8 drones all over here just to mine out this base. So if Terran ever breaks this position, at the very least, they're not going to be able to get the resources from the expansion. It's happened so many times now where I've seen this base being acquired, and even though Zerg had access to it for a long time, they just, still leave a lot of minerals there that they could have mined. Because it seems to me that that is the next step right here in Time's plan, right? Taking this control right over here. Maybe I'm mistaken, but... +3/+3 coming up here for Lambo. Good abduction. Time has got a lot of money in the bank, though. Cost efficiency here from the Terran player is starting to show. 22,000 minerals, 700, 8,000 gas versus 14 and 5k. Not bad whatsoever. All right. Nidus Worms coming right up in between the siege tank. The siege tank can see them both, but since they have a minimum range to fire, you can't actually fire at any of them. No units are actually loaded into these worms, though, so just trying to create chaos. Hoping that this creates an opportunity for the Brute Lords to move further forward as well. Fungal growth does come from the high ground. Thor count, though. Thor count is starting to look really nice. Oh, gotta be so careful, man. Those Thors, whenever they fire, a Brute Lord seems to die. Nice movement right here by Time. Once again, though, one of them gets abducted, but not a whole lot of follow-up. Okay, Neural Parasite is going to be able to take care of one of those Thors. Is going to be brought all the way back to the back of the Zerg. And that means that they will get killed. At the same time, though, Liberation Zones right now have quite a bit of range. That Infestor is going to be super dead. And now this Expo, the one that I would have loved to see mine out at this point, is going to be overtaken. And as soon as the creep is gone, I think a command center is going to land in this position. Yeah, so the double Nidus distraction in the Natural Expo, trying to create like a distraction as opposed to like have the Brute Lords and the Infestors move into a better spot. It really didn't work out. Terran already going to take control of those gases over there, making sure that Zerg cannot continue mining. More Brutes are coming up. There is a certain point, though, where, like, Mass Liberator Thor Ghost just absolutely gets smacked apart by Mass Zergling Baneling. Although you do need a lot of Zerglings and Banelings. Like, Ghosts, I mean, they're not great against Ling Bane, obviously, but they're pretty tanky, and the same can be said for Thors. I'm not sure if that's something that Lambo wants to do, though, because it's a very dicey decision to make, and it really doesn't work a lot of the time. My god, that was a huge overkill right there on that one, that one Overlord. Ooh, big EMP. I would love to see some tactical nukes added into the mix. That would be awesome. It's a great way of clearing out this position. Would have also been nice to try and force the Zerg player away from that high ground. Maybe you can kind of like, you know, nuke from this position over... Maybe not. But at the very least, it might be a way of getting that done. A couple of SCVs are being sacrificed. I'm apparently happy with the 15,000 resources right now that he's got. More than that even. 16k plus 17k even. Map in the video, don't do it. Not even once, Loko. Don't try that ever again. Keep doing it anyways. Another Infestor? Nope. Another Siege Tank instead. There needs to be a healthy amount of Siege Tanks out too, because without them, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Brute Lord is going to be able to take care of that just fine. Bow, bow. Okay, so that is 23 Brute Lords. 23 Brute Lords, 11 Thors. They can get hung up, I guess, on the little Brutelings, right? That's something to point out. And then 14 Ghosts as well. He wants to try and fight in an area that makes this... He's cornered right now, though. I don't know if I like this spot all too much. Yeah, Terran actually coming in from the side right now. Lovely movement here from Time, almost like baiting the Zerg into this corner, into this choke. Is it that good right there for the Zerg? I'm not entirely sure. Either way, here we go. Thor's trying to gun down whatever they can, killing some of the Brutelings too, while now target firing down a few of the Brute Lords. Snipes are starting to... Oh my god, starting to go. Zerg trying to create a Changeling force field there. Absolutely brilliant play by Lambo. Preventing those Ghosts from getting in range with the Changeling Overseers. Still, though, that was a very expensive Zerg army to lose. Yeah, he's gonna try and just reinforce this with as much stuff as possible. Whew. So what he did right there is he used the energy in the Overseers to drop down a gajillion of those changelings, and it at the very least prevented some of those ghosts from getting in range to be able to cast their spell, their snipe ability. Yeah, Zergs need to get creative apparently in order to deal with those maxed out armies, but he managed to pull it off. Now we're going back to Hydra Lurker. Terran going for more of the same, minus the Thors. At this point, he hasn't seen any Brute Lords, and making, yeah, Thors against other units that aren't Brute Lords, usually not ideal. So Lambo's strategy here is to try and do a quick tech transition. Try and quickly switch out the units that you got before the Terran player can make an army that can properly counter that. The thing is, Ghosts... Ghosts are pretty good, man. I keep circling back. Whenever I try to explain strategy, it almost sounds like salt, but it really isn't. It's just, yeah, it goes pretty good. Like, they're just really good. Like, you try to go for those tech transitions, but, you know. Here we go. Zerg going up towards the high ground. Not a lot of Banelings in his unit composition, as in 0, but once more, this high ground will be denied. Lambo does not want to give the Terran this base. Time still has quite a bit of money in the bank, but he's starting to run a little low. Okay, this might be a bit of an overextension, though. Siege tank over there getting a lot of damage in. If he had, like, a few Vipers to abduct those units, I would have liked that a whole lot better, yeah. Lambo probably hitting the old army hotkey right there, looking to see if he's got any leftover Vipers hiding somewhere in the map. He does have one energy, or one Infestor Rodder, probably with some energy inside of the Nidus network. Base on the right side of the map, still the Knight. A couple of Siege tanks helping out. Branda over there. Ugh. Lying on the side of Berlingrad. Here we go once again. Zerg trying to go for that high ground move. Siege tanks getting into a decent position, and I don't think that this expansion right here from the Terran is going to be, yeah, the Knight this time around. Lambo went up there, managed to get into that position, but it didn't have any Vipers to follow up that support. Now Terran's finally securing that base with the Planetary Fortress, and once Terran has this high ground, it's going to be extremely hard to get some more work in. Okay, let's look at the cost efficiency. Oof. This is where the real story is told. Despite the fact that Zerg has had about 1.5 bases more of mining this game, Terran has traded more than that, like, efficiently. So despite the fact that Zerg has gathered a ton more stuff in this game so far, if Time keeps trading the way that he is, I think he's eventually going to be able to close this one out. And now he has secured one of those bases. Still a lot of juicy mineral fields in this expansion too. He can continue mining relatively easily. He's got plenty of orbital commands to drop mules. Yeah, 7 of them in total. 2 more brutes end up getting sniped out of the sky. That'd be nice. A nuke right over there. Look at that, man. That's the juiciest nuke position I've seen in a while. Look at that. Hit it. It doesn't have any nukes. Time doesn't actually have any money anymore. That's why this expansion over here is going to be pretty sweet. Marines coming back out. Since our Terran here is broke, apparently Marines are once again back on the payroll. Thor operators a little bit more expensive, apparently. Still apparently broke the piggy bank. Found a little bit of money for those. Smart servos is available, so they're going to be able to pick off the Brute Lords and switch to that other mode, the high impact mode, relatively quickly. Nidus Worms there got killed. Zerg going in for a bit of a desperation move, because, like, what exactly are you going to achieve over here? Brute Lord's trying to get some work done, okay. I don't think I like this move right here from Lambo all too much, though. He is starting to break through. He probably is thinking, like, the choke point is amazing. There's a huge concave as a follow-up, and that's exactly what Time is aiming for right now. Forcing the Zerg to overstep. Huge fungal growth right there on the Ghost. Blinding Cloud also preventing those Terran units from their optimal engagement, but there's just simply too much Terran at this point, and Time wins a very well-played game of Terran versus Zerg.